and welcome to 307 Baseball. I'm Aaron Poling. That's Anthony Colasino, and that's Elan Olive. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of 307 Baseball. And guys, if you can believe it, postseason's right around the corner. The Single A district tournament for the western side of the state starts next weekend.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I'll be there getting to cover. We'll actually be bringing you all the games, so I'll be able to watch every single pitch of that tournament. I cannot wait. Going to get help from Cody's Chance Bond, which, by the way, exciting announcement. We're going to have our state preview tournament. We're going to combine with Chance Bond and Wyatt Barishka. They've been doing a Legion show based more on the Northwest than anything. Not quite a statewide show, but they're very, very knowledgeable. We're going to be combining with them. That's going to be a lot of fun, and that's going to be our state tournament preview show happening in about a couple of weeks.
And breaking news for maybe all of us.
Yeah. No, you guys knew about that.
Semi-knew. I don't know. Maybe he probably told me, and things just go in and out sometimes. It really happens quite frequently. You'd think that there's something to block in between the ears, but not really much. If the hair doesn't keep it in, I'm not sure what does.
I kind of noticed we kind of got a bit of a pattern going, like no hair, little hair,
long hair.
Yeah,
it's like the AT&T commercial with the cell phone bars going up.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, we could probably do that, too. We'd have to move Anthony to the left, though. Anthony is quite a tall drink of water. As we call him top shelf for a reason, because he's the only one in the office who can reach on the top shelf of our shelf. So, but we have a great show for you today, as we're going to preview some of the games that really make a difference coming up, as we still have some doubleheaders that have a lot of meaning to them. We're going to kind of preview some of the games coming up as well. We're also going to talk about the standings, where everything ranks, and we're also going to talk about some of the games that have happened over the past weekend. And let's go ahead and start with some of the games that have happened over the past week, as we'll go ahead and we will start with Monday, as we're going over some of the conference games. Or excuse me, start with Tuesday, as Rock Springs and Jackson, they got together for a doubleheader. They ended up splitting, as Rock Springs wins the first game 18-13, Jackson wins 10-3. As those two teams get together, and they split a doubleheader, as it'll be interesting for what that means going into seeding for the AA state tournament.
Yeah,
as those two teams kind of battling for the last two spots right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're also kind of starting to show that they're rounding into form before the state tournament. So one or both of those teams can make some noise over in Casper.
Yeah, absolutely. And that series just proves pivotal for both sides, because, it's much better to face the two rather than the one. But granted, some great teams at the top of the AA.
Yeah, but maybe the two this year,
is
as it stands right now, I was going to say, went to the American Legion World Series. It's not going to be an enviable task for either of those two teams, but I'm sure it's a task that they're going to attack head on. Because, I mean, at these tournaments, when you come in as a lower seed, what's really the worst thing that can happen? No one outside of your camp expects you to do much. You come out, you play a good game. Who knows? Maybe it's a 5-4 game heading into the seventh inning. Give yourself a chance.
You're playing with house money if you're one of those lower seeds. But, I mean, of course, you want to try to work your way out of that 8. But as you mentioned, the 2 may be Cheyenne, which they've got a habit of coming through and playing above their seed. So we'll see what happens. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's not like it's easy to get out of those seeds, too. There are really, really good teams in the AA. And, we talked about this with Coach Huggins from Jackson. He's our interview for today's show. We probably should have previewed that earlier. But, he's our interview for the show. But just Wyoming baseball is growing and growing and growing. And there's there's no better barometer than the AA right now with, the Cheyenne Hawks coming in and making some noise. And these teams, they're pretty good, solid teams that play a pretty good brand of baseball that, there's 8 of them, and someone has to be those final 2 seeds.
Well, in the interview, he talked about how he's been a coach since 1997, and the league has just grown in leaps and bounds. And I don't know about you, but he made an announcement in that interview I didn't know about.
No,
so
neither did I.
That's going to be something to kind of keep your ears out for when we play that interview. But it's grown in leaps and bounds. Just in the 5 years we've been doing this podcast, things have changed. And it's been a lot of fun to kind of see it happen. Hats off to Jack Sims and Cody Beers. Those two gentlemen over the last 5 years have led this league to where it is. And you and I, while at the Green River tournament, we had a team from Montana come up and say, Wyoming's doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. Like, Wyoming is one of the top states when it comes to American Legion baseball right now.
Yeah, and it just shows the progress as well as how far the game has gone. If you build it, they will come. And right now,
Nice.
Yeah, I had that in the back of my mind. But it just shows
Did you dream of it?
Yes. It just shows the growth of the game in this sport where you're having more kids pick up a baseball bat now and not, taking baseball over another sport, also maybe doing another sport on the side as well, but just growing the passion with the game of baseball and just so much life lessons can be learned from this game.
Yeah, speaking of the growth of American Legion Baseball, the two newest teams in the Single A Southwest got together for a doubleheader on Tuesday, as it was the Rollins Bandits and the Saratoga Cutthroats. Rollins gets a sweep, winning 11-0, and they win 11-9 in Game 2. And
that's huge.
Rollins, it's going to be, they're picking up 2 more wins. They're going to move to the 3 seed in the Southwest, and we'll find out who they play later on. But I want to talk about, for Rollins, they might not have had the season that they want to have, but we talked to them last year at the district tournament. A lot of really great kids on this team. But I want to talk about Lee Mastis. Is on the mound. He's had a couple of games this year where he's really kind of put a little they've kind of really put his name on the map as a pitcher who's pretty good. And, sometimes maybe doesn't get the help he needs on the mound. But, Mastis, we've seen him pitch before a couple of times. And he's a real solid option that, as the number 1 starter in the district tournament, could be a potential problem.
He could. I remember he pitched a game in Evanston, and the umpire came back and said, I haven't seen pitching like that in the Single A in a while. He's probably one of the top pitchers in the Southwest. And you're right. He's probably going to start that for opening round game against whoever the Bandits play on next Thursday. And you know what? Rollins can get a win there. They can upset the apple cart.
Yeah, and, when it comes to playoff baseball, if you get a guy going and rolling and, he struck out 13 in his last appearance, you strike out 13 batters in a game, you kind of make it a little bit easier, a little shorter on the defense, and suddenly you could find yourself in that 3-2 ball game. And sometimes in the playoffs, all you got to do is give yourself a chance because weird things happen. And we've seen that throughout the playoff baseball that we've seen. If you give yourself a chance, that sometimes it just comes to fruition.
Every year, Aaron, we have seen in playoff baseball in Wyoming, something crazy happens. There's moments that you and I will never forget. That happened at the district tournament last year. It was just nuts, and I can't wait to get back there. And I think a lot of people are hearing, okay, yeah, he struck out 13, but look who they played against. I don't care who you're playing against. You strike out 13, that is some great pitching right there.
Well, if you want more proof, he pitched against Lovell earlier in the year, and I believe he won that game, right? And Lovell's one of those teams in the Northwest. They could possibly play them again.
They could.
It's a very good possibility that Lovell ends up in that 2 seed as well. Is the seeding outside in the top 3 in the Northwest still has a lot to be determined.
When the brackets come out on Monday, it's going to be fascinating to see the matchups, see what could happen. It's going to be awesome.
Let's go ahead and move along to Wednesday as the Sheridan Jets and Gillette Rustlers got together for what was a pretty good doubleheader as Sheridan ends up sweeping, but they win the first game 11-9. They win the second game 12-11 in a pretty contested battle there as these two teams battling for position. The standings that we have that we're looking at are from, I'm trying to find the date, but they're from, I believe, Monday, as that's when the standings come out. So these games aren't factored in yet. We'll try to do the math and keep you up to date, but the Jets come out and they sweep the Rustlers. That's a pretty good sweep at the end of the season, as the Jets are the number 2 seed and the Rustlers sit at the number 4 seed right now. Is not quite sure where they'll end up by the end of the year. We still have a lot to determine before that, but that's a big sweep there for the Jets because it's a big difference between being the 2-7 matchup in the series, the 3-game series that the East is doing, versus being in the 4-5 matchup.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it a little bit last week. It's going to be best 2 out of 3 over on the East between those seeds to determine the 4 that are going to state. And you get a sweep and a conference sweep, that's nothing to sneeze at because you know that you've got the pitching, you've got kind of an idea of what it's going to take to win a best 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and also when you sweep a series, you can kind of implement that into the 3-game series next week, that it's best 2 out of 3. So if you can play your hardest the first 2 games like Sheridan did, winning 11-9 and then 12-11, technically, let's say those are the same scores of, we don't know the scores, of course, of next week and who's going to play who, but it's a situation where, say it's those same scores or around those same scores, well, you're moving on to the next round.
All that being said, Aaron's right. It's still playoff baseball.
Yeah.
And crazy stuff. Especially in a 3-game series against the same team. That's going to be fascinating to see some of the results come out of the East for this.
And we've talked about the East too, and a lot of splits have happened this year in the Eastern Conference games, and getting that sweep, that's why that's so important, just because there have been, splits, and when you get that sweep, that's 2 more in the win column, the loss column stays the same, and a couple of pretty good teams going at it, which I wouldn't mind seeing them get together again later on in the season as the Jets and the Rustlers. They played a tremendous doubleheader, and then we also have a doubleheader over here in Evanston, which we called last night. Evanston Outlaws win Game 1 9-8, and then the Green River Knights win Game 2 13-3, as that's a split. And just because we know that right off the top of our head, we talked about it during the broadcast last night, that would put the Evanston Outlaws 1 game away from clinching the 1 seed in the Southwest. So they split. Couple of different style of games, I think. In Game 2, both teams, they played some of their younger kids, got some younger kids on the field, get a chance to see what single-A baseball is about. But, for the Outlaws, they put themselves in position to clinch the 1 seed. They did exactly what they needed to do. They probably would have liked to have swept and, not have to worry about it on Saturday. But, different things that have happened, I think it could be a good thing as well that you have to lock in on Saturday to make sure that you're going to clinch that 1 seed, where if you go in on Saturday, you already have the 1 seed and you don't really feel like you're playing for anything, that can slope into the playoffs, and you want to go into the playoffs playing your best baseball.
I was about to say, we're at the point of the season where at any point in any game you can't show up oh-ho-hum. You've got to show up locked and loaded, ready to go no matter who the opponent is, because, as you mentioned, this is going to carry over into that district tournament. And Evanston came so close to getting out of the district tournament and making it to state last year. They don't want that to happen again, and if they don't, they have to stay locked in for the next week plus.
Yeah, baseball is just a game of hot streaks and cold snaps, and when your team's on a hot streak or you have some players who are hitting the ball super well, it's just even more valuable to your team, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, fun fact from the game last night, Outlaws ended up winning Game 1. They had 11 errors in the Game 1, and they still won the game. That's not to knock anybody, that's more of just how crazy baseball can be, where you played possibly one of their worst defensive games of the season, if not the worst, and still won, which is what makes baseball such a crazy sport, that many errors. There was plays where an error happened, and then they get one base, they're trying to advance the next base, and they throw the runner out. So you make a great defensive play after a bad defensive play, kind of erases it, and then they had a couple of great defensive plays erased by bad defensive plays, and that's why defense is super important. We hear all these coaches talk about one thing that they want to improve on going into the tournament. They almost always say their defense, just because it's that big of a deal in the tournament.
Whoever, and you and I saw it last year with Powell, whoever plays the cleanest, whoever plays the sharpest and the tightest on defense, they're going to be the ones that come out of the district tournament with that number 1 seed. And with how strong the East is, I think that number 1 seed is very, being 1 or 2 is pretty important going into the state tournament.
Well, you always want to be a top seed. In theory, it should be the easiest route to the championship game.
I don't know about this
but
district
like we said,
tournament.
Theory. If we played baseball on paper, it would be kind of a boring sport. But you have to play the games, and on paper, everyone should win. On paper, the Dodgers should win the World Series every year. On paper,
Thank goodness that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, on paper, things happen all the time, but you got to go out there and you got to play the game. And that's what makes the sport great. Is you go out there and play the game, playoff baseball, anything can happen. We're really driving that point home because it is the truth. Moving on to another conference game from yesterday, Torrington Tigers beat the Wheatland Lobos 15-6 and 16-6 in a doubleheader. Torrington sweeps the Lobos. As for Torrington, they still have the rain out that they have to make up, as it'll be interesting to see when that happens. But kind of sitting in the standings, it looks like they're kind of, I don't want to say locked in yet, but they're tied right now in the loss column with the Rustlers, and I believe with those 2 wins they jump over the Rustlers, and I think that would make that doubleheader between Torrington and Gillette in Torrington, which home field advantage I think makes a difference, just because you don't have to drive as far, you sleep in your own bed. and you're kind of more used to the field. There's a lot of advantages to playing at home in a playoff situation.
I got to tell you, I got a funny feeling about Torrington this year. I think we've not seen the best from the Tigers yet because they're cooking something down there, and they had a great state tournament last year. They probably had one of the best single victories of the state tournament last year, and I think they're building on that. They did lose some players, but they're kind of letting other people take the headlines right now. But I think they're going to make some noise of their own in the postseason.
Still got a couple of pretty big conference games coming up. Cheyenne Hawks and Sheridan Troopers. Buffalo Bulls will also play the Sheridan Jets. Hawks and Troopers AA. That's why that confused me for a second.
Yeah.
Buffalo and Sheridan. It doesn't say that it's conference games. Those two conference teams playing against each other. You got the Laramie A Rangers taking on the Wheatland Lobos, as that one is going to be a big game, jockeying for position at the bottom of the standings right now, as the Rangers currently sit 2-4. The Lobos are 2-10. Lobos are 2-8. So, if either team comes out and sweeps those, that puts them into a great position to move up the rankings. With other games that we have coming up as well, as we have the Lovell Mustangs and the Powell Pioneers on Thursday. That doubleheader's at 5 and 7. That's a huge one right now, as those two teams are second and third in the Northwest region. With both of those teams still have a realistic opportunity, looking at the standings, to jump up and possibly snag that number 1 seed, as Cody currently holds that number 1 seed, as we'll get you to the actual standings of that real quick, just to kind of go over that. Cody 8-2, Lovell 5-3, Powell 5-3. If either of these two teams sweep, you kind of put them in a good spot, especially for Powell, because they have to play Cody again.
Mm-hmm. Well, Powell will play Cody on Saturday, and if Powell sweeps Lovell, then basically that doubleheader between Cody and Powell on Saturday, the final doubleheader of the regular season, is going to determine that number 1 seed.
On Friday, we got the Riverton Raiders taking on the Lovell Mustangs in the Northwest Single A. Buffalo Bulls at Wheatland Lobos on Fridays as well. Torrington Tigers and the Douglas Cats, as they will get together. Like we said at the beginning of the show, there's still a lot to determine here before we get to the actual playoff tournaments. And then Saturday, we got a couple of conference games as well. Powell Pioneers and the Cody Cubs, as we mentioned. The Evanston Outlaws will go for the number 1 seed against the Saratoga Cutthroats, and the Rock Spring Stallions and the Sheridan Troopers will wrap up the AA conference schedule on Saturday, as there's a lot of really intriguing games, and I think the one we have to start with is going to be the Saturday doubleheader. We can't put the cart before the horse.
No, we got to see what happens
Lovell,
tonight.
they have to play, and that's going to be, I think, a really good doubleheader.
I think Lovell is going to come at this thing knowing that they've got a shot at the number 1, because if they can, they're going to need help. If they want the number 1, they've got to take care of business tonight, and then they have to take care of business against Riverton. And then they're going to need help in that Powell-Cody matchup.
Yes.
So I think Lovell, this is their chance. This is their shot. That if they want that number 1 seed, they have to go all out. For Powell, it feels like a stepping stone. It feels like you have to take care of business tonight, and then you can talk about Cody.
Yes. The last thing you can do is overlook Lovell.
No. If anyone overlooks Lovell at any point the rest of the season, whether that's tonight, Saturday, or the district or state tournament, they're asking for trouble, because I think Lovell they could be a Cinderella team that goes deep. Yeah. I'm being completely honest here. I really like what Lovell's got going on.
Yeah, and you look at that Lovell-Powell matchup, it's kind of the story block for the Northwest for the end of the season. That series right there could tell a lot of what's going to happen possibly on Saturday, but also say Lovell takes game, say Powell sweeps, just plenty of options ahead for that matchup. It could totally shake up the Northwest region.
And let's not forget, we're not that long ago from Lovell being the number 1 in the Northwest. Mm-hmm. So that Northwest is so jockeyed up. It's a 3-horse race battling for that number 1 seed. Evanston's pretty well got the inside track in the Southwest.
Oh, they got to win a game. So.
Yeah, just win 1 of 2 games and you're in. So that one I think is a lot less dramatic. But depending what happens Thursday night between Lovell and Powell, that's going to determine a lot. It's going to tell us exactly what we're looking for on Saturday.
Yeah, how did you feel about being the 2 seed in the Southwest, and then you run up against the defending state champs as the 3 seed coming out of the Northwest? It's that single A district tournament. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a slog and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Let's go ahead and check out some of the standings as we will start at the very top with the AA standings. In first right now, this would be the 1 seed if it ended on Monday, is the Casper Oilers. They are 10-2 in conference. The Post 6 Sixers are 8-2. That is Cheyenne, and they're in second. Gillette Riders in third. Cheyenne Hawks in fourth. Sheridan Troopers all the way down in fifth. Laramie Rangers in sixth. Rock Spring Stallions currently would be seventh as they split with Jackson. Both those teams now have one win in conference. And, we're talking about how good the AA was. The Sheridan Troopers were the 1 seed last year, and they're still a pretty good team, and they're falling all the way down to fifth. So that kind of tells you about the AA, and what you could really expect is, you can't really put one cart all the way to Billings, Montana.
No.
It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a grind, and there's some really good teams that have an opportunity to win.
Well, and the other thing is Casper and Cheyenne have a doubleheader still. And that's going to be, I believe, towards the end of the season, I think next week. Because the single A season ends this week, yes, but double A still has another week to go. That's going to be fascinating to see what happens there. Laramie's made some moves. I got to be honest. They look like they've made some moves as well to kind of help themselves out over in that double A side.
Let's go over to the single A East Casper Drillers. They are currently sitting on top at 12-2. Sheridan Jets have picked up a couple of wins, so I think they're 11-3.
Correct.
Douglas now 7-3 currently. The Rustlers, I believe, they're now 8-6. As we're trying to do a little math from the scores, putting together the things with the standings coming out from Monday. Torrington Tigers, I believe they actually jumped the Gillette Rustlers, as they are now currently
they're 9-4.
9-4. Yep, as the Rustlers are 8-6. So the Cheyenne Eagles come in 4-11. They still have a rain out to make up. The Wheatland Lobos 2-8, Buffalo Bills 2-8. Laramie Rangers 2-10, as there's still some jockeying in the single A East, and it does make a difference the position you're in. I mean, I'm sure nobody really wants to play Casper right now as they seem to be on fire. But moving up 1 or 2 seats could be the difference between a better matchup or possibly falling into a team that matches up very well against you.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm thinking about with how each side is determining who's going is for the West, you've got to play a 4-day tournament. And that's a max 4 games. For the East, you're going to be in a little bit better shape because you're only playing 3 games. Mm-hmm. So it depends on who's got the pitching, who's got the arms, who's got the depth. That's really going to come into play when we get to PAL for the state tournament.
Yeah, and that's just going to be one of the main things down the line, just stamina, conserving your energy. Pitching rotations are going to have to be on top notch, but also being able to, sit batters down as well and not let those long innings become even more long innings where you're throwing 30 pitches in a single inning.
It's going to come down to the 3, 4, 5 guys that you'd go to, not necessarily in your rotation, but like out of your bullpen. If you get a starter that goes 6 innings in the first game, that puts you in a great position, but maybe you get only 3 innings out of a kid the second game. It's going to really matter who your 3rd, 4th, and 5th pitchers are. His depth is going to be probably the biggest key for, I think, both single A, the playoffs and the West District tournament.
Yeah.
Let's go over the Northwest region right now. Cody Cubs 8-2, Lovell Mustangs 5-3, Powell Pioneers 5-3. That's why that doubleheader tonight is huge. Riverton Raiders sit 0-10. For the Southwest Outlaws, they are currently now 9-1. The Knights are 9-3. Cutthroats 1-7. Rollins Bandits 1-9. I take that back. Cutthroats are now 1-9 as well. Nope, they are 1-7. My mistake. Yep. They still have that doubleheader on Saturday with the Outlaws, as those are your standings and a little bit of scores and previews. And we still have a lot of great baseball to go to. And we talked to a great baseball man today, for the podcast, in Coach Jason Huggins, and we're going to throw it to that interview right now. Aaron Poling and Elan Olaf with manager of the Jackson Giants, that is Coach Jason Huggins. And Coach, we want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule, as we were kind of talking before we started that you guys are currently on the road already, so we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us.
Yeah, we're down here in Salt Lake here at the Pathways Tournament, Game 1. Today we lost in extra innings 7-4, but Yeah, it's 102, 103 outside right now. So we're heading back to the hotel.
When we get to the 80 degrees in Casper at State, that's going to feel like a nice mountain getaway for you after this.
Yeah, agreed. It's pretty warm out here right now. That's for sure.
So it is kind of the tournament time of the season, Coach. And what about these mid-season tournaments kind of help you guys lock in? It's a couple of new opponents. Maybe you're seeing teams that are a couple times that you've already seen before, but it's an opportunity to play in new locations and just try to see different teams.
Yeah, for us, I mean, obviously, we're the only Wyoming team down here out of over 100 teams.
Oh.
And so, every team we see down here at this Pathways tournament is a team we haven't played before. And then next weekend when we head to Boise, same thing. The teams we play we haven't seen before, and I think that's great for our kids. And competition is great, and so we're constantly always trying to increase our level of play. And I'm a firm believer that you don't really know good baseball until you see it and play against it. And so that's, this week and next week, obviously playing against some really good teams down here.
Coach, talk to us about this year's version of the Giants. There's a lot of new names, a lot of new faces. You guys are kind of in that reloading phase, but things are going pretty well for you. Talk to us about this year's version of the Giants and what we can expect from them, not just this year, but with their youth. What kind of potential you're starting to see in years to come?
Yeah, this team is really built around arms. We have amazing young arm talent. I mean, whether it's Derringer Holding, who pitched today, and he pitched 7 innings, allowed 2 earned runs, right? And when we went through he's, I don't even think kid's turned 16 years old yet. And he's, just been a rock solid ace of our staff, and even at a young age. He pitched down in the Green River Night Invite against Riverton, did a really good job down there. And so, a lot of really good things expected from Derringer. And Bridger Oldenhausen, another big, tall, right-handed pitcher, obviously, and then Robert Morales. And so this team is going to be built around arms. We're a lot of young talent. Whether it's Brendan Minky, who's hitting almost 360 as a 15-year-old, he should be playing prep right now, and he has caught over 150 innings for us this year, and he's hitting above, right? And so the kid should, like I said, he should be on the prep team. It's our second baseman who is 14 years old, but has started, had over 100 at-bats. So they're getting experience they need. Really good for them. Obviously along the way, we're taking some lumps. That it is what it is. But they're staying strong through it, and going to be better. Going to be a lot better players and program for it.
In the past, you've kind of had a team that's very, very powerful offense. 2 years ago in Sheridan, you guys had quite the run, and that was because of the way you guys were able to swing the bats. But it looks like you guys, as you mentioned, you're building the team around arms. And as we found out over the years, arms is what gets you through the postseason. How do you guys feel about your chances once you guys get to Casper with how things are going right now?
Yeah, again, it's an arms race. And right now, I feel really good about where we're at. Again, today, Derringer Holding pitched 7 complete innings and had 2 earned runs, right? And it was 3-3 going into the 8th inning. And so our pitchers are keeping us in it. If we can just hit enough to score, 5-6 runs, we're going to be in every game. And as far as the state tournament, right? We're just hoping to go there and compete. And every year we always seem to surprise the team or two. So you never know what we might do this year.
So what's an improvement that you want to see from your guys before you get to that state tournament? We're getting to the point where we only have a couple weeks left to really improve. What's one aspect you want to see get a little bit better before the tournament?
Well, it starts with take today, for instance. We're in a 3-3 game, and it's tight going to the 7th, going to the 8th inning, and you can feel that pressure build up. And with young guys, right, they've got to learn to just slow down, breathe, process, let the game slow down for them a little bit. And you know, in those situations, obviously, right, game's coming fast. You know, we made an error or two in that 8th inning where normally don't make those mistakes, but I think just being a young team right now, right, we get a little anxious. Game's moving a little bit fast for us, and so we can just process, let the game slow down for us a little bit. It'll help us in the end.
Coach, we've seen you coach not only baseball, but you've also were a basketball coach for a while for Jackson. But baseball seems to be the one that you're a Hall of Famer. It's something that you have a lifelong love affair with. Can you talk to us about kind of the start of that and just kind of why baseball has kind of held a special place in your heart for so long?
Well, I tell you, you know, you know, I started playing baseball when I was 6, 7 years old, and I've always played it every year, all the way through high school. Then I started coaching and got into that. I mean, my first year coaching was the Kimmer Aces in 1997, 98. Was the first team I coached. I think I've coached on every field in Wyoming, and so it's just a passion of mine, and I think it's a tremendous sport to teach young men about life lessons and teach them how to grow up. I mean, you go through so much adversity in baseball, and so learning from that really helps our young men here grow up. And so to me, baseball is no better sport to teach that, and baseball has brought so much to me into my life, right? And places I've gone and things I've done and people I've met. I just you know, my own just life. I would not have had without this great sport, and so I owe everything that I have to the sport. Just the respect for baseball, and just you know, Legion baseball in particular. I'm so high on Legion baseball, and I will definitely always be a supporter of Legion baseball, not only in our state but just nationwide. I just think it's a tremendous thing for our young athletes.
Is there a moment when you were young that you kind of fell in love with the game that you can think of, or?
Man, I don't know. It's been such a long time ago. I just loved it. I mean, I just think just the beginning of it, right? I just love the aspect of it, and it's that 1-on-9 mentality when you're hitting. I mean, it's such an adverse sport, right? And so there's nothing fair about it. You're always battling, and so it's just a tremendous sport to learn life lessons through. And I'm really, I'm excited for the future. You guys have probably heard, but after the end of this year, I'll be done Legion with the Jackson Giants, hanging up the managerial cleats, if you will. And so I'm really excited about what that future holds. I'm gonna, our program's in a great spot right now, and so we'll go from there and see what happens. But yeah, I'm really excited about just baseball in general, where our state's at, and just the relationships and whatnot that we've been able to make. So it's been a tremendous fun ride, for sure.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned 1997 was your first year coaching, and now here we are in 2024. Do you feel like Wyoming American Legion baseball is kind of entering a little bit of you hate to use the word golden age or anything like that, but we just had a team in the World Series. We had 2 teams competing at the regional championship. Do you feel like that Wyoming baseball is kind of at almost an all-time high with the competitiveness and how good all the programs have become?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, just think about where our programs are at today, where they were 5 years ago, 15 years ago. Our program our state is so successful right now. And I mean, you go around to other places and, Legion baseball may not be that state's priority, whatever's happened. And we've been able to stay strong. And I think Legion baseball gives such a great avenue for our young men. It gives them a regional to play at, a World Series to play at, great exposure for our kids. And, I couldn't be any prouder of our state We've added C programs. I mean, I remember when I first started, right? We didn't have any C programs. Everything was Babe Ruth. And then we had Legion programs. And I remember our AA teams, right? They might have had Torrington and Cody, and those teams were playing AA. And now we have so many AAs and single A's and C's and B's, and just the growth of our sport in our state is it's been tremendous. And I'm, like I said, I'm really proud of our coaches. I think we do a tremendous job. We have great coaches out there, and Jack Sims, I mean, he deserves a lot of credit as well for how much he's done and for our program and continuing to grow it. And my hope is to help him continue to have our state grow and Legion baseball. And it's one thing I've always told my seniors is to leave it better than you found it, the program. And that's, hopefully one thing too, when we're all through, that all our coaches and everything can say that the state is better than how we found it when we first started. And so right now, the answer to that is absolutely. So we just do a tremendous job.
In your opinion, what do you kind of attribute to that? Is just a lot more kids getting an opportunity to play the game? Because like you mentioned, when you first started, there weren't as many teams, and now it feels like there's a lot more opportunities for kids to play.
Well, one, I think obviously increase in teams, increase in the players. Coaches are, doing a great job of learning the game and being, understanding the game and going out and going to clinics and working to get better. And so I think we can attribute a lot of that to those things. Our kids are also getting college scholarships. I mean, I would venture to say you take all the sports in Wyoming, right, and add them up, and there's not nearly as many that get baseball scholarships as anything else. I think our baseball scholarships are through the roof right now. And so, that's a big part of it. Kids see an avenue to go and continue their education. And baseball's a great sport to go do that.
That is Jason Huggins, manager of the Jackson Giants. Coach, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck over in Salt Lake. Travel safe back to Wyoming. We'll see you in Casper. Anything else for wrap it up?
Yeah, we'll see you guys in Casper. But I appreciate what you guys do. And we talked about what makes baseball better in Wyoming, and it's you guys doing the show and spotlighting kids and programs and coaches and those type things are the reason why our program and our state continues to get better. So I thank you.
One final question for you, though, Coach. Who is the player of your it'd be your back left shoulder kind of peeking his head out? Not necessarily doing it on purpose.
Hey,
but
you guys say, hey.
Well, welcome to Jackson Giants at 307 Baseball. I was going to say, I don't know if they realized it, but one of the players is kind of like sticking his head back and forth, kind of going in between. We have to attribute it to him, I guess,
Yeah, they have no idea what. Yeah, so, yeah, you guys, yep. All right. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks,
have a good one.
All right, see you guys.
We want to thank Coach Huggins for being a part of today's show. We want to congratulate him on an awesome career. Just an awesome baseball man. You could tell someone who truly loves the game. And I talk about all the time, the best part about this podcast is baseball guys talking with baseball guys and just, recounting the joy they have for the game, the love for the game, the lessons that the game has taught them. And, that's where baseball is a little different than a lot of sports because it is a game of failure where you fail 30% of the time, or 70% of the time, you're an all-star in the major leagues. And it's just one of those things that baseball is such a great game, and he's such a great man. And I've had a lot of fun getting to know him over the last couple of years.
I can't picture American Legion baseball without Jason Huggins. That is so. When he dropped that bomb on us in the interview, it took me a minute to kind of regather myself because I had no idea that was happening.
Yeah, well, congratulations, Coach Huggins. We also want to thank you for tuning in. We want to thank him for the interview. We want to thank everyone, all of our loyal listeners. Without you guys, none of this is possible.
Worthy to note, Jason Huggins, Hall of Famer. He's going to be remembered for years to come in Wyoming American Legion baseball.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good way to end it with a shout-out to a Hall of Famer. I mean, not real often we get to do that over here. I mean, that's a real cool thing to do. So I'm Aaron Bowling.
Anthony Colasuno.
Elan Olive.
And thank you for joining 307 Baseball. Until next time, we're signing off.